Hi, welcome to a new video dedicated to a new brushless racer. This is the DYS ELF 83mm and it's nothing else than the brushless version of the tiny whoop, more or less the same dimension, 83mm quadcopter, but you will find some 1102 10,000 kV brushless motors. I've got the RTF version coming with this gamepad style Sky D8 transmitter with a lot of switch. Okay, so it's good, and for just a fraction of extra dollars you can have such kind of radio transmitter and you will be able to bind any Sky D8 compatible receiver with. So let's open and discover this bundle. Here are all the elements in the box. So I will start with the instruction manual, black and white printed, okay, and more or less with the English, where in the first page you will find all the technical characteristics. So you have an F3 board, to be more precise, an SP Racing F3 board, flash with the Betaflight 3.1.5, so almost the last one. You have some 4-in-1 BLLES D-Shot600 compatible 10 ampere ESC board. Okay, I don't know exactly the peak, but probably close to 15, and a very wide angle FPV camera with 170 degrees, so maybe it's a little bit too much for outdoors application. It's good for indoors, but for outdoors could be questionable. It assumed to be pale in ATSC, but for me it's more by default in pale. And you have a video transmitter associated with a 48 channel, assumed to have either 25 or 200 milliwatts video transmitter power. Beware, by default it's more set on 200 milliwatts. Okay, so you will have to remove a small blob of solder to turn it into 25 milliwatt. You have a linear antenna installed, we will discuss about it. Okay, and this machine comes with the 2S LiPo I will present. So everything is here under more or less the dimension, the split diagram, but not the role of all switch keys. I will explain in few instants. But the more important, I will say in the instruction, is all the 40 frequency has supported, 8 frequencies divided into 5 band. The racer band is supported. Okay, so no problem. I will show how to set your frequency. So what you will find, I will start with a bag of 4 spare props. There are some 40 millimeters 5 blade version. Okay, so 1.25 1.7 inch to be more precise. Okay, I can give you the exact dimension, so more or less 40 millimeters, sorry, and install on top. So how to recognize the sensors, how to install them. You have, okay, yeah, I hope you will be able to see on the light, you have the main hole where you have to attach the screws, and if you are on the top face, you will have also two in quadrature small hole, plastic hole, due to the process. Okay, so they have to be on the top face, okay, compared to the lower where they are not present. So you have to find these two small plastic, I would say, gap on top, and this is the right sense to install them. So 4 of them already pre-installed in the quadcopter. You will find a charger, okay, up to working with 2S or 3S LiPo, delivering up to 1.8 ampere. It's a lot, okay, but the basic one I strongly advise to use a more professional, associated with the DC power unit, okay, with the European socket for my version and a DC connector. The LiPo, a 2S LiPo, so a 600 mAh model with a discharge rate of 25 C. I can give you some information about weight and dimension. So for example, the weight is about 31.7 gram, and if you need some exact dimension to find a compatible one entering in the battery tray, it's more or less around 45, okay, by 24 by 15.5 millimeters. So you have the balancer plug and no GST or micro SD or XT30. You have another GST connector with a pitch of something about 2.5, I guess, yes. So 2.5 millimeters of pitch between the two poles. So good news, you will be able, whatever, to use your favorite LiPo in GST connector is not a big problem. So the last item coming with the RTF version is this transmitter. So you have 4 switch, 1 2-way on the left. Here it's a 3-way, okay, so this one is to arm the machine. This 3-way is to select the flight mode. When you are in upper position, you will be in pure 6-axis stabilization angle. In the middle, you are in a ratitude, so it's an angle with few deviation of the stick, and when you will be in extremity, it will turn into rate. And when you are in lower, you are in acro with air mode turn on, okay? Here, this is the OSD switch, so when you will be in up or down position, the OSD will be not displayed. To have the OSD information, the extra at least, you have to be in the middle position. Finally, the last switch, another 2-way, is to turn on the buzzer. So when his position is off, when it's down, the quad will emit some beep. You will need 4 AA batteries, and rechargeable batteries are working. Okay, and this model, it got basic gimbal. Okay, it's not super precise, so I strongly advise, if you have a more professional Firsca Direct compatible radio, more to use it, but it's already not bad. You have some trip button and a small LCD display. So let's have a look to the radio. No possibility to save several model files, so one unique. And you have to press on the enter to enter into the different setup. So you have the monitors, you can, for example, monitors all these channels values. You have the switch A and switch B, okay, all the different switch C, switch D monitors. To go back in the menu, you have to press this arrow, reverse arrow, then go down and up via this 2 lateral right button. We can reverse potentially a channel, okay, so when you have no, it means that it's normal. You can go down and make the channel mapping. So it's more interesting option if you plan to fly this model with your Taranis Firsca radio, because by default this model is using not an irrelevant AETR channel mapping, but more TER one, so you will need to assign this identity matrix differently. So you will have to swap, for example, the third in the third position and so on. But good news, if you are more using Deviation TX radio, no any other assignment can be done. Okay, but also I don't have any Taranis radio, but I'm sure this mixing about channel can be done also via to the specific profile model. So really, I really don't advise to do this inversion on this basic radio. Okay, so it was only a concern about if you plan to fly both this quadcopter via this radio and your Taranis. Okay, so to exit from this set menu, you have to long press the arrow. Then we can go down. We have a menu about the dual rate and expo. Since all the switch are already body, the dual rate is not very useful, except maybe if you plan maybe to sacrifice the arming, okay, by arming by the lower right classic way, then you can use the switch A to apply a more dual rate for beginners. Okay, so how to proceed? But we have to enter, okay, and then thanks to the arrow, okay, normally, no, you have to navigate between the option by the enter button, so I will re-explain. So here you can select either the Aeron or rudder channel, so the first channel 1 and 2, okay, and if you press again, you can set the dual rate, okay, and by default is set to 100%. So it means that when you are in 0, so for example the switch A in 0 position is when it's up, you will have the full rate. So if you want, for example, to apply a beginner rate, go to the 0, then press when both are selected with the both 100 and decrease this value to 170%, for example. The last pair of value here actually is 30, is the dual rate, is the shape of this exponential curve. So by default is 30. Most of users find it maybe it's too much. Okay, and if you plan to use more professional radio, you should reduce this value to close to 0. So how to proceed? go down like this, and you will decrease, okay, or something around 5, something very small. And don't forget to apply also for the other channel. So here it was for aileron. You have to now go to the rudder, okay, and then press the elevator, I would say. Press now the these values and decrease this value around 0.05, something like this. Okay, so now it's done, and as soon as you will press back, it will be saved. Okay, what are the other options? Mixing, setup. So it's very important setup if you want to bind your quadcopter. I will show how to bind with both this radio and another transmitter, Deviation takes Devo 7A compatible radio. So how to proceed to bind this machine? So you have to know that this machine, whatever you have, the FieldSky version or the DSM2, after 6 seconds will enter automatically in binding mode. So I will plug the battery, okay, and for example like this, and you will have to connect the GST connector on 2.5 millimeters like this, okay, and you will observe on the top of it here the receiver light, and after 6 seconds will flash very fast. Okay, so I have to turn on and off the transmitter because it was already, and after 6 seconds it will flash very fast. You will see. It should. Okay. I will have to maybe to restart the machine, yes, because it was already, so we have to wait after 6 seconds. As you can see now, you have a fast flashing, so it's ready to bind. So how to proceed? Turn on your radio, okay. So now, since I need to do the binding, it won't work. So go to enter and select, go to the setup, press enter, and then press bind, okay, and after a couple of seconds you have a solid line, no problem. So you can turn off everything and the quadcopter. So now be aware, each time you will have to use this machine, you have to plug the battery and to turn on the quadcopter within the first second. Okay, we have a solid line, and the more important, we have some basic telemetry information. Here, the small top left information is about the RSSI received, so pretty good. And we have a small information about the battery of the transmitter. Good news, you will see that the battery voltage of the quadcopter is also transmitted by telemetry. So now I want to show you how to bind this machine with a Devo controller. It's more or less the same system. So I will turn off everything. Okay, replug the battery. Wait 6 seconds to have the fast flash. Turn on my radio. Go to the my profile with the FieldSky D8 selected mode. Okay, here, ready to press bind. Okay, I've got this solid line. I will turn off everything. Okay, turn on again the quadcopter. So no power switch, and turn on fast the my Devo controller. So it's bound, and I will show you that the via telemetry the battery is also displayed. As you can see, we have this value compatible with the RSSI. Homogeneous to, and this one, okay, B in second position, is homogeneous to the LiPo voltage. I have to scale it correctly to the real value, but it can be done via Deviation TX, via the AD2 parameters. So now it's bound, so it's great. Okay, be aware of that. And if I want now to rebind with the original transmitter, I will have to do the same. So I will power off and continue now the description of the machine. We have here first of all, a basic plastic duct system. And I found that they are a little bit weak in my point of view, and the lower structure is in carbon, and I found it very, very thin, and as you can see, I will measure it. We have something less than, look at that, 1.5 millimeters. So it's super thin in my point of view, and look the size of the legs, and it could be very problematic because if you're crushing strongly on the landing gears like this, all the efforts, mechanical effort, will be transmitted to the lower frame, and they will probably break around here. Okay, it's a common source of problem with this frame, and there are already some variation more stronger. So I would say the main drawback of this DYS ELF is the weakness of the carbon structure, more or less increased the weakness by the prop guard and the landing gears. Okay, we transmit to the carbon frame all the kinetic energy transmitted during a crash. Let's continue to describe. So we have this battery bay here where we have a small plastic pad to block the forward, but it's not so obvious. Okay, and no power switch, but we have this GST connector, and I strongly advise to mark some color, so the positive pole is on the left and the negative is on the right. Okay, and in fact the good news with such kind of connector is you will be able to connect a normal GST connector. How to proceed? This is why I advise to put in color. In fact, just plug a GST connector and it will work like this. It's great. So thanks to this color mark, you can't be wrong, and you can fly with your LiPo much more easy to find in more with GST connection for the leads. Okay, one remark. We continue the description of the machine. Okay, here we have on the lateral side, the dual side of the main power connector, we have the video transmitter button, and the video frequency selection is a little bit tricky with color. So the red for the current VFREC inside the current band, and the blue LEDs more for the selection of the V band. Okay, and here we have another micro GST connector, a 5-position one. It's a GST SH, so order some. Okay, and they will be very useful if you plan to use MWSD configuration software to configure all the options available on the OSD. And I build such cable. Okay, so I build with this cable and ending with some DuPont wire. I use a serial to USB device. Okay, so you can either use an FDDI device like this, or such kind of I can remember the chip here I will mention, but you know, with the FDDI device you can find a lot of fake one, non-genuine one, and with the last driver they are completely bricked. Okay, they update the driver to brick the non-official one, I guess, understand. So I strongly advise more to use such kind of USB device, except if you are sure, if one day you think you will buy a FSK receiver and to flash the 22 milliseconds firmware, so an FDDI device can allow to inverse the logical sense of the RX and TX gates. So in this case, only in this case, you can prefer to buy a FDDI, but if it's not the case, buy this kind. It's cheaper, no problem with the non-genuine. Okay, you can find them for $1. So I will also overlay the connection diagram. So we have from the bottom, if I'm not wrong, the ground, the plus 5 volt, okay, power it in 5 volt, and then the RX takes, and the other DTR. So like is a UART connection, serial one, so you will have to connect the TX cable from the USB converter to the RX of the quadcopter, and the same the RX from the USB converter to the TX of the quad. You have to invert RX and TX from the two sides. It's common for your connection. Be aware of that. When it's done, you will be able to connect to the software. So be aware with the MWSD. The installed version is the version 1.6. Now there is a version 1.7. And from the 1.7, they start to use Chrome software graphic user, but you have to pay it. But good news, the version, the free 1.6 is still working, and in any case, this is the version 1.6 installed on it, so you can use the Java application, it's still working. So basically, you can change a lot of settings via the radio, I will show in a few instants, but if you want to display, to change the layout, OSD of all the information, I think it's much more easy to do it via the PC, okay, a computer, other than the transmitter. Okay, so what I want to mention is about the motors. So there are some 1102, so smaller, 10,000 kV, so working more or less only in 2S. I'm not sure about the compatibility about 3S, but I don't think so. Be aware when I receive mine, after the first flight, 1 minute after, I've got one motor who would say was out of order, and I've got a problem with one internal wire. I have to disassemble everything, and after it was working again. So some other user reporting such kind, they are warming a lot because this machine is very powerful. That's a positive point. So be aware to cool them after each flight. It's pretty important. Maybe some PID adjustment must be done. We have by default all the PID settings of Betaflight 3.1.5. Okay, nothing special. Maybe we will have to adapt a little bit the PIDs, but out of the box it's flying pretty well. A little bit nervous, okay, so for beginner be aware. So this is why I also advise maybe to quit the arming switch more for dual rates, to have a more soft rates for starting. But anyway, one important remark, we have some lights, okay, for the landing gears. And in terms of design, so as I said, I hope you will be able to see close to the video transmitter button here. I will show how to select the frequency. We have two LEDs. On the left is the, I will turn on the battery, will be even better. On the left it's for the frequency selection, okay, and on the right it's a blue one for the V-band selection. But nearby, at the right of the blue light, not turned on, we have a small blob of solder, and this one, when is installed, it's selecting 200 milliwatts power. So if you want to fly it in 25, you just need to remove it. Okay, it's pretty hard because you have to disassemble everything. Anyway, how to select the V frequency? It's a little bit tricky. So by default, you have this red solid line. So you have to press this button short, okay, and you have this LEDs flashing. You see 4 times flashing red. It means that I am in the 4th frequencies of the frequency table. It is here. Okay, I will show exactly. So we will navigate through the column of this table. So we are on the 4. We are exactly in this column. Then, okay, after 10 seconds, if you're doing nothing, it will exit from the menu. So I will now try to select the row. So I will long press the button, and after 3 seconds should enter in the blue light. Then I will short press, and you will see 3 times. It means that I'm on 3rd row, so I will have the intersection of the 4th frequency, 3rd band. I am in the Boscan band and E4. Okay, so when it's done, you will select, and when you have to navigate, for example, the change of frequency in the red color, you have to short press, and you will increment. And when you are in 8, you will return to the 1, etc. For the band, the same. When you are in air, you will return to the A for the blue color. Okay, so it's not super trivial, but anyway, it's like this. And in terms of the video frequency, I hope you will be able to see the lead antenna is installed here, like this. Look at that. This is the antenna installed horizontally, completely blocked by the flight controlling board. It's just criminal, I would say, in terms of efficiency of the transmission to install the 5.8 GHz antenna like this. why they didn't install it more vertically, maybe even down, but there is no real possibility to bypass, to change the position even more. The extremity of the 5.8 GHz is blocked here by this plastic, so some user cut all the battery tray to install this antenna more gently, bend it and then install it more vertically. That's the right things to do, but they sacrifice the battery tray, so it's not a very good option. So I'm really disappointed by the antenna, the 5.1 GHz antenna one. For the 2.4, it's another story. First, the 2.4 GHz antenna is installed just below this canopy. So how to access it? It's pretty easy. You will have to remove all these below screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and when you will remove, you will be able to remove both the plastic and the white parts. Okay, and you will have two connectors, one for the FPV camera by default in PEL, and the other for the receiver. It's a basic FSK receiver. And for sending by telemetry the RSSI and VBAT, we show that, but I regret that, for example, the RSSI is not also sent on the 9th channel, okay, or the 8th one, to be able to retrieve and to send the information in the OSD. Is not the case, I regret, but this is a basic FSK receiver, and I strongly advise, and I will do it later, to drill a small hole on the top of the canopy to install the antenna more vertically to optimize the radio propagation for the 2.4 control part. Okay, so I think I make the tour. One word about the camera. There is a small angle, okay, something about 10 degrees, no possibility to adjust it. It's a wide angle, 170. The lens thread is an M7 format, okay. So to resume about the structure, a little bit weak, okay. So I think versus time, especially for flying indoors, the structure, the carbon structure will break, and the prop guard has to wall for sure. So we will need to replace it. There are already some replacement third-party models, so be aware of that. But outdoor over grass, it will be less problematic. This machine is super punchy, thanks to the 1102 motors and the 10 ampere Bell LES. They are flash with the 16.6 version. They can be upgraded with the one-wire pass-through. That's great, via BLLE configurator or BLLE suits, as you prefer. So there is some good news, but what I want to show you is how to access to the OSD, for example, via the radio. So we'll turn on the battery, okay. Turn on immediately the radio, okay, and I will turn on the FPV monitors, okay. As you can see, we have a message on MWSD. So by default, okay, I should band with the original transmitter, but we have this information. We can disable some OSD information, the horizontal and vertical lines, okay, and the flight mode. So if you want to move this information around here, it's better to do it via the UART connection. I think it's much more easy. I will show how to proceed. Anyway, how to enter into the setup. You have to push the throttle in the middle, okay, push to the right, and then push up the elevator, and you enter. And to navigate between main panel, you have to press on the left and the right. You will go to the main panel. So for example, the RSSI is turned off. It's normal because there is no feedback for the flight controller by the receiver, not sent by the 9 channel. It's only sent for telemetry, etc. So you can change the value, the PIDs, etc., etc. You have the battery voltage, etc. So it's pretty good, okay. So, but it's not so obvious. But you can do it in the middle of the field. That's great. So now, what I want to show you is how to what are the default Betaflight configuration and the BLLE one, and also show you the MWSD default configuration, maybe to optimize some little bit the layout and what information must be displayed. Okay, so let's see the default Betaflight settings. So I will connect and immediately check the current installed version in the machine. So we have a SPA Racing F3 board with a Betaflight 3.1.5 installed, almost the same, and I strongly advise to any circumstance to save, to dump all the defaults parameters, okay, to dump and copy paste these settings into a text file, into your favorite folder, okay, and save this file. And if you got a problem, you can always paste these values into the CLI interface and type save to restore your default value. So now it's time to check. So I will go to the setup. The machine will reboot. Actually, the battery is not connected, okay, so we don't monitor yet the V battery, but as soon as I will connect the batteries, we have the battery, so it means that we have a direct link, electrical link. That's great. So I will actually turn off the battery to save a little bit some. In terms of ports, we have the UART3 serial turn on, so it means that we have probably an S-bus receiver for the fierce guys. And okay, so if you have a PPM1 or an I, you don't have to select this one, but if you have an S-bus or I-bus, you have to turn on the serial associated with the UART3 in general. In terms of configuration, we have a quad X, no specific board alignment. D-Shot 600 is turned on by default, that's great. We have motor stop, okay, and what other settings? It's confirmed. We have a serial receiver with S-bus protocol. The V battery monitor is turned on, is great, with the default warning values for each cells. So it's up to you if you find them a little bit coming too early or too late. You have maybe to adjust the warning cell and the minimum. Okay, they are both to the same value, so maybe decrease a little bit this value to something more 3 volts, something like this. We have the default frequency. We have an SPA Racing F3 board, so these two values are a little bit low. The PID loop can be set probably close to 4 kilos as well for the gyros update. So I will upgrade everything in few instants. The current meters are also monitors. In terms of other features, we have telemetry. You have to turn on, but we have the transporter. I don't know why it's turned on, so we can turn off. And since the OSD is not Betaflight based but MW, we can turn off the OSD features. Okay, we can save, and probably we will save a little bit some load. Now from 10% we go to 8%. For the phase safe, it's correctly set to drop. That's great. And let's check the PID settings. We have the rate profile 1. All these PIDs sound more or less standard for Betaflight 3.1.5, as well as the rates. So if you want some faster rate, I will optimize a little bit them later, but they are quite standard as well. Of the level strengths for both angle and horizon set to 50s. That's all. Let's check a little bit the filter settings. Okay, so we have the gyro notch around 400 with the band plus or minus 100 Hz. Okay, so it seems to be a standard. Let's check the receiver. So I have to replug again the batteries and to turn on my transmitter. Okay, and after a couple of seconds, I am on the deviation TX. So as you can see, no problem with the deviation TX. We have the right channel assignment, aileron, elevator, throttle rudder immediately. So what is not done, it's no RC deadband or yaw deadband, so you have to apply. And if you're using your Taranis or whatever transmitter, be sure to have all the channel perfectly centered on 1500. So it's not perfectly the case for me, so I will use with the subtract button to center them more precisely. Okay, something around sounds to be good. I will do the same with the aileron. Okay, so just to apply some basic sub-trim to be close to 1500. The same for the rudder. Okay, it could take a couple of seconds. I've decreased a little bit. Okay, and sounds to be pretty good, and sounds to be good. So now my model file is good. I've got actually only two aux like this, but I will harm with here YAR command. Okay, not with the switch. It's my personal choice, but on the other hand, I will have an extra switch with my model. So let's check the default mode, and as we can see, we have on the completely left switch of the original radio an arming switch. We see the switch A, and when it's down position, it will harm. We have the flight mode, which is a three-way switch. Okay, the left one. By default, we are in 6-axis stabilized angle mode. Then when it's in the middle, we are in horizon, so you can flip with. And when we are in the down position, we are in air mode, an acro plus air mode turn on. Let's check that the beeper, the switch completely on the right, the two-way is turned on, and the OSD switch, as you can see, look that we have two settings, so is turned on when it's on the up position and in a down position. As you can see, in fact, this channel should be reversed on the radio. It means that the full OSD information are only displayed when it's in the middle one. So nothing specific have to be checked now. So what I want to do is to now more adapt the I will remove the R because I will disconnect it a bit because I disconnect the stuff and reconnect the stuff. Okay. Reconnect now, and I will change now some default settings, so more or less in the port. So I will increase these values to 4 kilos. Okay, it should be okay, and we will probably go to 8%, something around 20-25 maximum, so still acceptable. Nothing else to change. So let's check that, save and reboot. Okay, 30-35%. So we are on the limit, but it's still okay on the CPU load, and we will have much more smoother flight. So I would just decrease this value to 10. It's not really important. This is a phase-set behavior. Okay. And now let's check the PID settings. I will decrease a little bit the P values. Okay, as well for the pitch and roll, something around 54. Okay, the derivative, and I will apply my favorite RC rate. So I will fly with my double controller mode. So I will increase the RC rate to something 1.5, and I will increase also the super rate to have something about 800 degrees of rotation. Okay, so I will decrease to 1. I've got exactly 800 degrees per second. For the regular command, I prefer more linear one. So I will apply a very close to 2 and decrease completely these values to something about 34. Okay, I've got almost a linear curve. I prefer for the YAR command. For the strengths, I will decrease them to 30. Okay, it's a small machine, and that's good. I will save. Okay, and let's talk about the receiver. So I will replug again my battery, and as I said previously, I will change. I will add some RC band here. Okay, 4 and 4. One more time, what's a pity that the receiver don't deliver on the 9th channel the RSSI, because we could send them to the OSD, but it's not the case. So I will save here. Okay, and let's check the mode. So I will keep the default settings, but I will change to aux1 because for me it's aux1. Okay, I will remove the arming here. Okay, and I will leave the beeper on aux2 for me. Okay, and the switch for me won't be available because I will minimize the OSD information. I will remove, for example, the two horizontal and vertical lines. For me, for FPV racing, completely useless. So I will keep the OSD information. I will remove all the switch here. Okay, completely useless, and I will save. So I've got now the information. I've got the beeper here, okay, and that's great. So I remove a lot of things. I think for FPV was a little bit useless. So now I want to show you the Betaflight configurator default settings, okay, and also how to change a little bit the layout of the OSD information via MW OSD guide. Okay, so let's connect to Betaflight configurator. So now I will plug the battery, okay, as well the transmitter to not have the buzz, and we can press now the read setup, and we can read all the ESC information. So there are some 8H7T flash with the 16.6 Betaflight S firmware. It's not the ultimate one, and we have some information. For example, you can turn on the break and stop values, okay, and can save everything. Write the setup here. It will save to prefer. But if you want to flash the last ultimate one, you can press on flash on one and select probably this one. This is a 16675, but I don't advise it. I think it's more or less the same. No real improvement. So that's good that the all ESC are seen through the one wire pass through, and we have almost the last ESC firmware. That's great. So now let's check a little bit the MW OSD configuration. Okay, so first of all, you will need to download the last official MW OSD version 1.6 with the free graphic user interface, so it should be available for many type of OS. Okay, so I'm in Windows 64, so you have to press this bad button. So I will first connect my UART serial converter to the PC. Be sure to have the correct driver installed on your machine. Okay, and when it's done, you have to double click on this file, and you will arrive to the main interface. So if everything is okay, just press on the associate COM. For me is COM3, and you can read all the settings available. So if you change anything, you have to click here to write. Okay, so by default you can display the voltage, use the from the main controller board. Okay, we have turned into pale, some stuff like this, and as you can see, we have in HUD the display horizontal bar, so we can remove them. Okay, and it would be a little bit better in my point of view. And you can see that the flight mode is here, so it's not superposition. I want to be here. So how to proceed? You have to click on layout editor here, okay, and then here you have to select the right button. So this is the flight mode indicator. So just click on plus. Direction to home is not this one, distance is not this one, speed, angle to home, GPS, altitude, sensor, headings, compass, altitude, climb rate, throttle. It could be great if we have this information about the flight controller board, so it could be an option to have. So I will have to see, but it's not yet the question. And news, timer, arm status. So is it this one? Pitch angle, roll angle, latitude, longitude, RSSI, temperature, voltage, etc. Amps, MEMS powers, horizontal horizon, etc. So we will probably have the one to select. FSK cells mode. This is the flight mode. Let's check that. So if it's the right one, we can move it. Yes, via the cursor like this. So we can press on the right, okay, and go down, more or less. Okay. So now I've modified the position. I can click on right, and now everything will be done. So maybe what I want to display is the throttle input, so should be around here. Let's check that. Voltage and page. RSSI, no other. Display throttle position. I don't know if it will be available. So look that I have to maybe to shift on the left the horizon mode, and I want to now to move this one to so it was few values. So sorter is less obvious than the Betaflight OSD, which is much more easy and friendly in my point of view. So now you have another Chrome configurator, but you have to pay it, while this one is free but less easy to use. Right angle, status, throttle, so you can press on left. Okay, go down. Oops, up. So, and I will press right. So I should have these two types of information now display. So sounds great. So as you can see, the layout can be much more easily modified with the Java graphic user interface. Okay, I think now all is done and set. It's time to test this machine, and let's go.